YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. If you haven't heard, Donald Trump attended the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. And of course, he wasn't the only one who attended. In fact, he was sitting directly next to Joe Biden. But you know, these people hate one another, right? You know how they were calling Republicans and conservatives terrorists in America? Well, that's all forgotten because, of course, Trump is friends with the Bidens out in the open, and people still turn a blind eye because they are under such mind control that they literally will refuse to see the obvious because they want to believe what they want to believe, and they want to believe that their martyred hero is going to save them from the deep state. That's the narrative that's out there, and that's the one that they want so badly to be true. So Biden, of course, Jill Biden sitting next to Donald Trump. But the big thing that came out of this Notre Dame reopening was this handshake that occurred between Donald Trump and Macron, the president of France. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
Please. Là. Hop, c'est président.
So that looked like a very bizarre handshake, right? Well, of course it looks bizarre because it is bizarre, because it's a secret handshake. But everybody out there sees that handshake, all of the people under spells, and they're telling themselves that that handshake was Donald Trump manhandling French President Macron with one of the most dominating handshakes I've ever seen. America's back. We're so back. Somebody else. President Trump is back, dominating world leaders with his handshake. Macron is going to need a professional treatment or hand massage after all that twisting and pulling Trump did to him. Or how about this person who might be close to waking up because they're realizing it's a Masonic handshake, but of course need to convince themselves that it's Macron who's trying to do the Masonic handshake and Donald Trump is blocking it and preventing it. She says it looked like Macron was trying to do a Mason's handshake or some secret society handshake, and President Trump ended the symbolism, grabbing him firmly and balling his fist. I bet the younger diplomat wasn't expecting that strong of a grip from the golfer, but the key word there is grip, because of course what you're seeing here is a grip of a Freemason. In fact, that is the lion's paw, because Freemasons communicate through secret symbols and secret handshakes. And even though that person was close to actually realizing that there was a Masonic handshake going on, it shows you how deep the hypnosis is. That these people can even see it and identify it as a Masonic handshake, but have to convince themselves that it wasn't Trump who was putting out that handshake. In fact, he was so angry about it, he raised his arm up. But if you actually know about Donald Trump, I've covered this before. We've seen the rituals he's been involved in, like the Royal Archmasons ritual. right? The Royal Archmasons ritual, where you could see the Masonic hand gesture. You could even see him doing the triangle power with his hands, which I'll get into in a minute. But the handshake that Trump has been using very often, very recently, is the lion's paw. That's what he was doing with Macron. You can see how the lion's paw extends to the wrist. Lots of people look at these handshakes and they try to decipher which one it is. Is it the lion's paw? Is it the mark of the master mason? Is it the excellent master? Because it all goes by what they do with their hands. It's really more about feel for them and what they do with the inside fingers as well. But we could see these things and they don't look like normal handshakes, right? Some people try to make excuses for them and say, well, where are they supposed to rest their thumb, right? Well, if you see some of these grips, like the past grip of a Mark Master Mason, I mean, it looks like they're playing footsie. It looks like they're having a thumb war with each other. It's very easy to see. And of course, the handshake that Donald Trump was giving went viral because people out there were caught off guard. They thought it was bizarre. But of course, they had to tell themselves and convince themselves as Trump supporters that what he was doing was strong-arming Macron, saying that I'm back in power. I'm going to make you look weak. But that wasn't what he was really doing, because Trump's been doing this grip where you see his hand extend to the other person's wrist a lot recently. He even did it with President Biden. Remember when President Biden said that the people who vote for Donald Trump and support Donald Trump are all terrorists, are all domestic terrorists, domestic threats, right? Well, Donald Trump doesn't seem to mind that he said that about his quote-unquote following, his cult, his voters, even though your vote doesn't count. So there he was doing it with Biden. He did it with Macron. And even in that sit down with Joe Biden that he did recently, where now all of a sudden they're friends, even though he refused to show up on Inauguration Day for Joe Biden, it seems like they've just let all that stuff slide. I guess they've let it slide because they realize that the spell is so strong on the majority of these people that they literally could go out to dinner with one another, and all it takes is one article out there that says, well, they went out to dinner because they had to go. Kind of like what we've seen with Operation Warp Speed, right? How all these people are disregarding who it was who unleashed Operation Warp Speed on the United States of America and the civilians of this country. And don't forget, it was many conservative Christians who were duped into going and getting that early on because they thought that it was safe because they trusted Donald Trump. And that was part of the deception. But of course, they all turned a blind eye to that conveniently, right? So even in this shot, you see the triangle of power that Donald Trump is using, which is another hand symbol that the Illuminati, that the New World Order, the Masons use out in the open. People think it's just a way that they're resting their hands. You'll see so many prominent people always doing it. Some call it the Merkel diamond because Merkel is always doing this hand gesture every single time there's a photo op. But celebrities do it too. Jim Carrey's done it. I've seen Oprah do it. Trump even did that hand gesture during that Masonic ritual that he was involved in. Of course, Macron, while he was in Notre Dame, also decided that he was going to do the triangle power because he's somebody that always does it as well. And in fact, we've not only seen him do the triangle power, we've even seen him just flat out make a pyramid with his hands where it couldn't be more obvious what he was doing. And of course, the triangle power is a reference to the all-seeing eye. It's another way for them to do all-seeing eye symbols. And if Donald Trump was doing photos next to Macron and they both held one hand over their eye, it might be a little bit too suspicious for the sheeple, but I don't know. I think they'd still make an excuse for Donald Trump anyway. And of course, you may remember I talked about Donald Trump tweeting out about how he was honored to receive the Federal Order of Police's endorsement. And of course, the Fraternal Order of Police is a Freemasonic group. It's a direct correlation to Freemasonry, the organization which has over 377,000 members, are all Freemasons. You can look no further than at their logo, the Fraternal Order of Police. Look at it up close. You see the 5 points and the circle that it's in? Do you think that that's because the Fraternal Order of Police are all Dallas Cowboy fans? Is that why they have the star? Are they Dallas Star fans? I mean, what do you think that's for? Oh, right. Because they don't expect you to notice that the circle, which is very prominent in witchcraft, and the star are occult symbols. They expect you to just think that it's nothing, that the sheriff's office uses this symbol or the police use this symbol, right? And you can look right on it. If you think I'm a conspiracy nut, you think I'm making this stuff up, okay, well, what's on the Fraternal Order of Police's logo? As I've shown you, the all-seeing eye is directly on there. That Masonic grip that Donald Trump is using is directly on there, the Lions flag. And then, of course, you could see the black and white checkerboard, right, that we always see. And when he went on stage to accept this honor, that, as he called it, you could see him doing the same exact handshake there. These are Masonic handshakes. Trump does every symbol in the book that he can get away with out in the open. The fact that he made the symbol for MAGA, or at least the symbol in 2016 for MAGA, was the 666 sign, should have been enough for people to wake up. Trump's done the hidden hand before, which is another one that prominent politicians use, where they put their hand inside of their coat. I've covered this before. You can find Tom Hanks, Kanye West, Prince Harry. That's another Freemasonic hand symbol that we see. George Washington has many photographs where he's doing the hidden hand. Napoleon, in many photographs, is always depicting the hidden hand. It's not because he's itching his belly. If you were taking a picture, having someone paint a picture of you that was going to go on a mantle or was going to be seen in the White House, I doubt that you would want them to paint a picture of you where your hand is inside your shirt and it looks like you're scratching yourself. That's because this is deliberately done, and they don't expect you to notice signs or symbols because you haven't been trained to notice signs or symbols. And of course, Prince William happened to be there as well, and they had a little Masonic handshake also, but conspicuous by its absence is Prince William's hat. He forgot his little tiny hat, because that's another thing that they all have in common with each other, because there's a direct connection to Freemasonry and the Kabbalah, because that's really what it all goes back to. So Prince William forgot his hat, but of course he has that in common with Donald Trump as well, who has openly discussed the Kabbalah in his book, and he even has the Kabbalah Tree of Life on his wall in his office, but we're supposed to think it was a gift from somebody, and of course he'd have it up on his wall because he had to put it up on his wall, just like he had to do Operation Warp Speed, right? So back to why they were all there, because it's important to note that the Notre Dame Cathedral reopened, and celebrities lined up, politicians lined up, flew all the way out there to make sure that they were there. Salma Hayek is an actress that we've seen in the past doing the all-seeing eye symbolism because of Salma Hayek's in the club. That's why Salma Hayek got invited to the Notre Dame Cathedral. What do you think? They invited her because the priests at the church and Trump and Joe Biden and all the presidents and dictators really of all these countries wanted Salma Hayek to be there because they're really big fans of Salma Hayek's work? Is it because they're huge fans of Puss in Boots or Magic Mike or House of Gucci? Some horrible films that Salma Hayek has been in. And of course, I only know those films that Salma Hayek has been in thanks to the Google Beast, because who really knows any movies that Salma Hayek is in? But of course, Salma Hayek is there, and the sheeple don't think anything of it because Salma Hayek is rich and famous and might be married to somebody who is worth a lot of money. But they think that it's normal for all these politicians to interact with people like George Clooney and Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt and Madonna. They can't seem to connect the dots how this bloodline is all connected to one another, because it's a bloodline, right? I mean, Salma Hayek doing the all-seeing eye symbolism with Lana Del Rey. Lana Del Rey openly admits to what? Being a witch, spell casting on Trump. You think Trump is upset that Salma Hayek is there? And Salma Hayek's good friends with Lana Del Rey, and Lana Del Rey ordered witches to cast spells on him? And then, of course, you may remember some of the videos I did where the witches were upset because the spells weren't working on Trump because he's protected. And then all the Christians bought into the story because it's very easy, clearly, to dupe them. All they need to do and see is somebody pretend to be their friend, and then they're on board, and all they need to do is claim to be Christian, even though their fruits show something completely different. So, Met Gala, again, with Lana Del Rey, who has, I've covered numerous times, so much satanic symbolism, but admitting to being a witch, and of course, chemtrails over the country club. What more do you need to know about everything going on in the world and how it's connected to these celebrities and politicians? So, the reopening of the cathedral is because it burned. You may remember 5 years ago or so, it burned, and they had to rebuild it. Now, I believe this was done on purpose, of course. I believe it was to do a remodeling, but also to make sure that it was completely closed. Because if you're not familiar, these locations, like when you see the pyramid and the all-seeing eye, even on the Notre Dame Cathedral, these places like Bohemian Grove these prominent cathedrals, these castles like Augusta in Germany, the Augusta, Germany castle, or the Playboy Mansion, or underneath the Statue of Liberty, or Stonehenge. These are places where major rituals occur. So it's very likely that they wanted to shut it down because they probably were performing some types of major rituals and they had to make sure it was closed to the public. And in fact, now that it's reopened, we can just take a look inside and see some of the beautiful decorating they've done. Oh, wait, look at the floor. Right now, you might say, well, a lot of cathedrals have that black and white tile floor. Well, yes, they do. I mean, we saw Prince William get married at a church that had a black and white Masonic floor. Now, why do you think that is? Do you think that the church doesn't know what the black and white symbolism means? Do you think that the church or the cathedral of Notre Dame put this in because the Kardashians happen to have it throughout their home? Or is it because of all the Freemason lodges? Every single one has this black and white Masonic checkerboard floor. And of course, this represents duality, as above, so below. The only thing missing in the cathedral is a giant statue of Baphomet, but it does get weirder inside because up at the altar, you'll even see this gigantic bowl at the top of the altar. Now, in call me crazy, but I don't recall in the Catholic churches that they have giant bowls at the top. You know, I've been in a Catholic church. Usually you go down the aisle, and then when you make communion or whatever goes, you know, at the top of the aisle, right? And the priest is standing there. Man, there might be a little altar up there where he reads from, or he has the wine. This looks a little bit like, well, something I think I've seen in a lot of satanic temples before, because most satanic altars have a giant bowl at the top of the altar. What do you think that bowl is for? That's right. It's for that red liquid that they obsess over, that is really the core of what their faith is. Remember in the movie The Believers? I'll show you again.
Of course you're uncertain, Cal. Naturally, so was I, till I met him. And now imagine, if you can, a life without uncertainty, freedom from doubt, the ability to choose, single-mindedness.
One life from each of us, Cal, is all he asks. And he rewards our devotion 1,000-fold.
Personal desires, oh yes, of course, anything. That's part of it.
It's only the beginning.
There was a time, Cal, when man was at one with the gods before the fall. Now we're at one again. And their benediction is power. It's a power you can't imagine. Power to create a world of our choosing. Power to destroy those who oppose us.
We want you to join us. Create this ground with this Father's humble offering. We seek the strength and wisdom of our benefactors.
We call upon the ancient gods to renew our strength and guide your hand to strike down the enemies of our faith and of this great nation.
We welcome our brother Cal, reborn into your grace.
Ayawaladama,
the power which is our birthright,
Erebanya,
the glory which is our destiny,
Anjukukajin Tasmala,
our enemies consumed by winds of fire,
Ong Pangay Mulula Sonina,
our strength reborn in sacrifice.
Identi Sonina, Monsaya Dinti Sonina.
Right? Did you notice that bowl and what was going into that bowl? So, hey, you could call me a conspiracy nut all you want, but it's a little suspicious that there's a giant altar with a bowl like that at the end of the aisleway inside of a church that is filled with black and white Masonic checkerboard floor. So all these people went there, gathered for the reopening. You could see tons of Masonic handshakes that, of course, most people dismiss because they don't want to believe that Trump is one of them. And this is on them because it's like the same thing I talk about with these musicians. People out there, they'll say, oh yeah, Cardi B and these people, they're all satanic. You know, it could be somebody in their 60s. And like, I grew up on Led Zeppelin and that kind of music. And then you go to them and you say, you kidding me? You know, Stairway to Heaven, Backmask, right? Pied Piper, Lucifer, you know that that's a satanic anthem? And then they go, no, it's not. You could prove it to them, but then they refuse to believe it because they don't want to believe that Led Zeppelin's a Satanist because they like Led Zeppelin. Now, early in your awakening, it is hard to separate from things, but the longer you're in it, the more you come out of the world. You don't care about the things of the world. Obviously, I grew up not awake. When I wasn't born awake, I had to come out of the matrix just like everybody else. And when I first came out, I didn't want to believe certain things. I didn't want to believe sports and athletes and all that stuff was rigged and that they were in on it. But then, of course, you see it with your own eyes. And then you can decide if you want to believe it or not. And you want to believe the truth or you want to continue to live in a lie. The truth is that Donald Trump is one of them. He's showing his fruits. He's aligned with these people. He's aligned with Elon Musk by design. Because Elon Musk is going to bring about the AI governance under Trump's watch, and Trump is going to allow it to occur. And all these Masonic handshakes should be something that's easy for people to see. You want to debate what exact shake it is. To me, that's the lion's paw. But if you want to tell me that it's a different Masonic grip, go ahead. But the fact of the matter is that it's not a normal handshake. His handshake with Biden, not normal. His handshake with Macron, not normal. His handshake with William, not normal. Trump is showing you that he's a part of the team, and he has all along. The 666 sign, even seeing him in the Royal Arch Masons outfit. I mean, there's always excuses. People say, well, you know, he was at that thing for a college, university, and he wasn't really, you know, part of a ritual. He's just wearing it. It's like getting, you know, graduate. Oh, really? Because it didn't look like one. Sure looked like it was at a temple somewhere, a very small crowd. He was sitting on stage in a prominent spot. Looked like he was being initiated in some sort of way, right? But these people will continue to refuse to believe the truth because it's not convenient for them and it gives them no hope. And that's why the Bible tells us not to put your hope in man, to put your hope in God alone, your hope and trust. And sooner or later, these people are going to realize the mistake that they've made. But then it's likely to be too late. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.